Ouais, tu me fais 2 cuirassés là, allez.
It was in the right place at the right time. That's how we found out.
It's like a big hunk of titanium. I wore my titanium watch today.
I'm sorry.
New glass pen that just came in.
I don't really know anything you see here, go to the shop, contact me, I can always pull it out of
Yeah, I've got a chair here. You can pull a chair down. Sometimes you can sit down. I brought this raised table because if you're trying to write down here,
Mossberg's hard to shoot. I got one. I shoot. I converted mine over to a green saw. I shoot those.
I would guess that it probably be in Germany.
All right, let's dive into the haul portion of this video and talk about the items that I got at the show. So let's see. Let's start off with Esterbrook. I was able to get this nib cloth, and it's got their label or logo on the back. And I feel like in my Go pack, this will work really nicely when needing to wipe down my cloth and perhaps not having any paper towel or something like this available. So I think it's a very unique offering. I like that they come up with little accessories like that. I just think it's fun. And from them also, I got 2 stickers. So one, this typewriter. I love the vintage look. I feel like my haul in general has kind of a vintage vibe going on here, which you can kind of see. And then they're Back to the Land sticker. And I also got blotters. They have a number of different offerings for blotters, but this came in a pack. It comes with 3 of these large ones and 6 of these smaller ones. The smaller ones fit nicely in a traveler size passport, and these larger ones are like a bit bigger than maybe an A5 size, I want to say. So it's more rectangular than that. But yeah, this is kind of their like original vintage look. They have some really gorgeous ones in color of animals and things like that too. This is what they had available, and that worked fine. So that is from Esterbrook. Okay, next is Papier Plume, and I got this wax seal lamp, and it has a beautiful vintage look to it, and a little kind of snuffer on a chain. So my understanding is I would fill this with lamp oil, and of course the wick would become saturated. I would light it, and then this would burn like an old-fashioned candle, and I can use this with wax seals, which is the whole idea. So it's quite small. It's a very cute little desk accessory, and it's handmade in Italy, so it really feels like a very nice quality. They have a couple of different styles. They're available online. I'll link to it. So excited to get some oil and use that. It's a shame I don't have any to use right away. Then also, I got this gold seal cream. So you would use this again with your wax seals, and it adds another layer of kind of depth to them. I'll show you how that works in a second because I have a wax seal ready. Okay, next I got this is a A6 notebook cover in jungle green leather from Ing Leather, and inside it's branded nice leather, has some spots for cards and an insert. I already had an A6 pencil board in clear, so I put that here just to add a little stiffness, and then I put in one of my Esterbrook blotters. I think I have a notebook that'll fit in this, so I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to decide to use it for, but I really liked the color a lot, and I got a notebook from them too that is an irregular size. It's not like traditional, but it has apparently Tomoe River paper in it, so that'll be fun to check out. And again, I'm not really sure what I'm going to use that for yet. And next I got some vintage dip nibs, and if anything was going to be the highlight of my acquisitions of this haul, these are definitely it. So they are very beautiful. They're gold nibs with nice flexibility and softness. They both have different decorations on the grip section, and then they both have mother of pearl handles, and this one you can see has a little bit of like a thorny profile on it. So we're gonna write with these. but they're very beautiful and very responsive nibs, which I like. Along with that, I got some new old stock vintage nibs. None of these are remarkably, they're all steel. None of them are remarkably flexible. So I'll add them to my little collection, but I'm not sure that they'll be getting too much use since, you know, they're not like very flexible nibs. But I'll take it. It's always useful to have some. And then what I also have, if I move this down a bit, is I got some ink samples. So we're going to swatch these together, and I'm very excited. I have, so first of all, two of the ink samples I got at the table at the Ohio Pen Show. It was the Pen Club table, and they had like, you know, a table where you could drop off ink and switch ink and freebies and things. So I looked through the ink samples and I picked two that I was interested in. And then also I had arranged with another fountain pen enthusiast to do a bit of an ink swap. So I took some and I got some in return. So I have long been awaiting to try Palette Iroshizuku Inaho, so I got a sample of that. There's been a lot of hype over this ink, and I was just super curious to compare it to some of the inks and make a opinion for myself on what I think of it. So that'll be interesting. Then we have Mont Blanc, Robert L. Stevenson Brown, and Stipula Cephia. And I've never tried a Stipula ink, so that'll be very interesting. And I've been wanting to have a sepia also for this time of year. Vinta, so Vinta Inks, Sandugo, I think it would be. And this is a very interesting looking ink as well. Platinum Lavender Black. And my first Iron Gall ink. This is the Akamon Iron Gall Nut Gall Blue Black. So we're going to swatch those together and be able to see what those inks have to offer as far as properties and whatnot. And before we do that, let's go ahead and check out that wax seal cream, because I've gotten like a stamp pad that's supposed to do the same effect, and I wasn't very pleased with the result. It just kind of rubbed off. So when I saw this, and I've seen others use them, it seemed to work well. So apparently you can use your finger, which I don't have a little brush to use, but you can use your finger, it says, and it says that it becomes permanent after a 5-minute dry time. So we'll see. So there is the stamp, the wax seal stamp, and so it's very one-dimensional, right? And then I've got a bit of that glitter cream, and we'll just put that and try to get it just on the stamp itself, not on the surrounding areas. And there you go. It just kind of pops and brings it to life, I think, very nicely. And I don't know what I think yet. Now, generally, if you get the, well, I know what I think. I like it. But what I mean is, I don't know what I think about this. Generally, you want to just get it on that part. And if you get it anywhere else, it's kind of an accident. But I am trying to decide what I think about, like, if I were to rub this a little bit on here, almost like a highlight around this seal part. What do you think of that? Just to give it a little more interest, subtly. I think I kind of like that. So I'm going to set that aside, and maybe when we're done our ink swatches, I'll come back to it and see how resilient it is. But it already definitely sticks better than the stamp kind that I had gotten before. I can show you what that is. Okay, this is the original one that I had gotten, and you're supposed to stamp your wax stamp in this and then stamp your wax, and it's supposed to make a similar effect, but it wasn't working very well. It was inconsistent, it would rub off, and I wasn't satisfied with it, so now I just use it as a stamp pad. So there's that. All right, so let's go ahead and do this swatching. I'm using my own fountain pendulum modular set for this. So it holds 7 vials of sample ink. It's a magnetic modular set, so it has this pen rest attachment that I can use together or separately. And I usually use, for my swatch cards, I use a watercolor brush, a pipette or dropper, and a little stone that I use to spread the ink around. And then we'll also go ahead and be using these to write out the names of the inks. I'll go ahead and try out these vintage dip pens with gold nibs that I got. And I have these resting on my also fountain pendulum. This is a jewel compact rest in Purple Heart. And I'll link to those if anyone is interested. But let's go ahead and get on to the sampling. I use coloring. I've stamped this already. And let's start with the Idaho. I specifically put that in first order because I'm very eager to see what it's all about. And I suppose I'll be using this also. This is my singular vial holder. So as I use one ink at a time, I'll use this to hold it for me, stable. All right, so I know that one of these is more flexible than the other and finer, and that's the barb-like one that has all these little barbs around it. So let's start with that. Have some fun with it. So let me zoom in too. Pilot, it writes so nice. Oh, shit. Zuku. Inaho. There we go. It does write very nicely. One drop. And then we'll spread that ink around. That way we get the high and low values while we're swatching it. Oh, I apologize. There you go. And I think Inaho had already kind of developed a lot of enthusiasm, as in the last couple of years these earthy ink colors have become quite popular. And then I think it kind of blew up once word started getting out that it was going to be discontinued, because anyone who had even a remote interest in it wanted to grab it since it was being discontinued. And we'll of course get the best idea of this ink once it's dry, but so far it's certainly looking like it's a yellow-green with a bit of a brown earthy color. It's not very dark on the low values, but you can see using something of a wet writer that it goes down pretty dark, looking almost golden. So it's a nice color. It's not as saturated as I was anticipating, but again, we'll see it once it's dry. All right, next we have the Mont Blanc ink. So Mont Blanc, Robert L. Stevenson. Brown. I haven't had too much experience with Mont Blanc ink, so I don't have too much of a formed opinion on its performance. So this will be very interesting to try. It's also in a color that I think I will very much enjoy. It's good for this season of year, and I love these earthy tones. I had quite a few of these hues that I was enjoying from Diamine ink over the last perhaps 2 years, but after some misbehaving Diamine inks, I've rather gone off them. So in the past, I was enjoying like Diamine Sunburst and Tobacco and things like this. So it's nice to have some new inks to try that are in that coloring that I'll enjoy, but from different brands. So this is already leaning a little orange, so that'll be interesting to see. Very good. Next we have Stipula Sepia. And I haven't had any sepia inks, so this will be very nice. And I have a stipula that I'm looking forward to putting this in because it would go really nicely. It has those rich earthy tones that would complement the pen very well. And this is even more brown than I was anticipating. Like a richer, deeper color than I think of, but that's okay. And it'll be good to see how the performance of the ink is, of course, also. Vinta ink. This is my first Vinta ink. I saw that there were some available at a table at the show, but I didn't see a color that really stood out to me enough that I wanted to get it. I'm also kind of experiencing a little bit of ink overload in the sense that I usually don't buy bottles, so it really has to be a bottle of particular interest for me to buy it. And so I don't often buy bottles, but I've gotten several lately at shows, so I'm just trying to be a little bit more aware. I've kind of run out of room on my desk for storage, and that's kind of my thought, is I always don't want to have more inks than there's room to kind of display on my desk. So there's actually a couple bottles that I have removed from my desk and put in a box to either give away or trade, that I no longer really have much, I guess, as much enthusiasm for compared to the other inks that I've acquired. So yeah, just being more aware about not getting too many bottles of ink. But I was very pleased to get a sample, and you can kind of see already that this ink has some very interesting properties. It looks like a ton of sheen, and so this will be very curious to see dry. And I love the red hue that it has to offer already. Now we have the Platinum Lavender Black. I recently tried the Platinum Citrus Black and really liked it. I actually don't know how many inks they have in this whole vein of combining a certain color with a black. But I think it's kind of a discreet way to get color while still keeping it kind of tame, I guess. I think that's very nice. I like the color that it looks wet, and I hope it doesn't become too muted once it's dry. Looks like it's already leaning more black as it dries. So yeah, we'll see how this one goes. All right, our last ink swatch is the Akeman Iron Gall Nut Gall Blue Black. This is also my first Akeman ink. It feels a bit dry. It has a very present aroma. Not a very good one necessarily. But these are based off the original Iron Gall inks that were archival, or as close to permanent as they had back when. That's my understanding, at least. And so they were naturally derived. The aroma is familiar. I'm trying to think of what that reminds me of. Something with primary school, maybe. I don't really think much of the ink, but I don't think the ink is supposed to be anything special, really, by looks. I think it's mostly more of a, you know, a consideration back to the original archival or permanent inks. It's more of a historical interest thing. So let's take a look at that wax seal next while these dry. Okay, here's taking a look at this wax seal. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, it comes off on my... Okay, it's rubbing off the smooth area, but it's not coming off the actual stamp. I mean, it's coming off onto my skin, but it's not actually coming off the seal. So I'd say for my purposes, this would work very well. Now this area that's very smooth and glossy, it's not adhering to very well. Like it's wiping off or smearing off. But the area that was stamped seemed to have more of a matte finish, in that it's not coming off. It's coming off, like I said, onto my skin, but not, it doesn't seem to be removing. So I think that'll fit my purposes very well. Now, while the ink samples continue to dry, let's get a writing sample with my two vintage dip nibs. So this is what I was saying, they both have a different design on the grip section. They're both gold nibbed. This one is a little bit finer and more flexible than this. So let's just go ahead and use that platinum lavender black to do a little writing sample so you can get an idea of how they write. I've really been enjoying them a lot. And let's go ahead and zoom in a bit. So we'll put platinum, lavender, black. When I was trying these out, people were saying it's so thin. How do you write with that? Well, it really reminds me of holding a paintbrush. Like more specifically, a small watercolor brush. That you're kind of making strokes and you have to hold it, you know, a certain way. Let's take a look at the flexibility and how fine of a line it can do. So it's quite fine, so that shows that perhaps I am using some pressure when I write. Not intentionally, but I have room to improve. And what I've noticed about these are not only the very responsive nibs and joy to write with, but they hold the ink really well. I'm very surprised. It can hold a lot of ink and it doesn't just dump it. Especially considering this is fountain pen ink and not like a calligraphy ink or anything. So that's the first one. I'm gonna move this up so we can do the next. This is the more flexible, more fine one. And I looked at the nibs under a loop. They are, you know, rather a little aged and misaligned. So I'm considering maybe giving them some tuning. I'll try it myself first and see what I can do. And then consider having it worked on by a specialist. So this is the finer one. And I'll do a video. I think I'll do a little research on these and do a video later on what individual brand each of these are, because they're made by different companies. And when I was picking them out, I really took the time. There were quite a few of them, maybe 6 or 8. So I really took the time. It only railroad because I ran out of ink, but I really took the time to pick the one that I enjoyed, and that was in the, you know, not too expensive. There are some that are quite expensive. So they're really a joy to write with. And while I was doing my ink sampling and writing the names down, I think that's like the first time. Usually when I do ink swatching, it's whatever writing instrument I'm using, it's more of a utility, the glass dip nibs and so on, or the Kakamori steel nibs. But this was actually a joy to write with in swatching. So that's something else that's really fun. Another thing that I wanted to show you was that I went to the pilot table and I tried out all the nibs. Now, the pilot table that they had, they weren't selling anything. They just had the variation of their pens on display, inked for you to try them. And they said that they were dipped, not actually inked, as in filling the cartridge or converter. So the writing experience would be a bit different, but you get the idea at least. So this is the paper that they had. I actually don't know what kind of paper it is, but here I suppose would be the Japanese symbols on all their different sizes that they had available. They do have other nibs that weren't, maybe they were available and I just missed out, like the signature nib and things like that. So pilot, extra fine, fine, soft fine, you know, trying out what degree of line variation you can get with that. They even had the fine medium and the soft fine medium, which I've never experienced or seen before. The medium, the soft medium, the broad, coarse, the music, posting, which I quite liked, and the FA Falcon. And I remember trying this before and not being very impressed, but this one was actually impressive. So I don't know if my opinion has just changed, or if this was an exceptionally good one, or if because it's a tester, it's been so used that it's become softer than usual ones because of the amount of flexing it's done. The Waverly stub, the Falcon soft fine and soft fine. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. And if you ever have the opportunity and you're interested in pilot, that's a nice experience to be able to have, to see what's interesting and fitting for your hand and for the type of writing that you enjoy doing. Here we have the inks dry. Let's take a look at them. Pilot Arushizuku Inaho. Mont Blanc, Robert L. Stevenson Brown. When I tilt them like this, I feel like it gives it more of a true read on the color than if I have it straight toward the camera. Stipula Sepia. Venta San Diego. This has an enormous amount of sheen. It's a very, very cool reddish brown, and then with the green sheen. Ackerman Nut Ball, Iron Gall, Blue Black. This is interesting because the way that it, the high concentrated, it looks more like milky. It's very interesting and very matte. I'll be interested to try the water steadfastness on this later. And finally, Lavender Platinum Lavender Black. That's very lovely. I like that a lot. So which inks are of interest to you? Anything on your list that you'd be interested in trying? And what do you think of the Pilot Hiroshige Inaho? Do you have it? Do you use it yourself? This ink was discontinued. I think it's a nice color. And I think of all the colors that they could have discontinued, I'm not sure that this is one that I personally would have said was a good one to discontinue. But I'm not sure if compared to other inks of a similar color, this would be a blow away favorite for me personally. So yeah, it's an interesting one. So thank you so much for watching the haul and doing the ink swatching together. Feel free to share and comment in the comments below. Check out the links in the description. I'll thank you so much for joining, and hope that you enjoy the shows that you've been able to attend, and ink swatches and ink trading, ink swaps with others. I'll see you on the next one. It's all up to you now.